are you guys?
Good. So we're here for Nerds and Beyond.
Nerds and Beyond.
Yeah, it's our 4th year, if you can believe it.
It's true. We started in the little, when it was back in the little, remember it was like a little extra area over there?
Oh, yeah.
That's my first, I think it was maybe my first year here.
I think it was too, actually. And it was like nobody cares about this, but it was my first day working for Nerds and Beyond.
Was it really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow, I didn't know
that. We're going to ask you questions about comics and about Supernatural.
Sure.
And then we're going to do some of our traditional nerd questions too.
Let's do it.
All right. So starting with the end of Supernatural is coming soon. How do you feel about that?
I was just telling the story earlier. I was at C2E2 when the official news broke, and my table ended up being sort of a wake situation for folks. Someone came over and I thought like someone had like maybe perished. So then I was relieved that no one had perished. But it was actually kind of a cool thing to be among friends and family and to talk about it. And look, 15 years is a long time. But my feeling on it is I'm super thrilled and excited that they get to end the show on their own terms. Most shows don't end like that. Most shows don't get a full, a year or whatever it's been. Maybe it was longer, I don't know, because I'm not in the know, but to be able to craft the story they wanted to tell. And I just think it's great for the actors and the writers and the cast and the crew to be able to go out the way they want to go out and not feel like pressured and also to go out on their, like I said, like on their own terms. Like that just, I don't know. It's sad that the show, I'm not going to say it's ending because I think the road goes ever on, but there will be a 15th season and the last episode there. But at the same time, I think it's pretty cool that they're going to get ended on their own terms. I'm excited for the guys, and I'm excited. It can't be easy in that situation, I think, to craft that story. But they have a really great, really wonderful, great group of writers, and I think it's going to be great. I think it's going to be special.
Mm-hmm. All right. So I know you shy away from talking about how you would execute a storyline on the current show. Maybe not. But as a fan,
sure.
Do you have a wish for what happens to any of the characters?
I want them all to die. No, I'm kidding. I don't know if I can answer that. It's something we would talk about. We would talk about like what would an ending look like. I certainly have something in my mind, but I'm so excited to get to see it. I don't envy them at all. Like it's a really hard job to be able to figure out how you want to weave everything together for that final season. Not that it's a final season. Who knows? It could be more later. So I don't envy them at all. But Bob and Andrew and all the writers there, they're really smart and they love the show. They really do. And so I'm just excited to see it. I have my own like headcanon, as you kids say, but I'm more interested in what they're going to do because I think it's going to be fun. And I think it's going to be special.
Which character from Supernatural do you most miss writing?
Ooh, which character of Supernatural do I most miss writing? I'm gonna cheat and say 2 characters. Probably the boys, and by that I mean Sam and Dean. Not that I don't love Castiel or writing for Gabriel or God or Chuck or Charlie or any of those characters, but like. I always just, I'm the youngest of 2 boys, and I really related to the dynamic that the brothers have. Above and beyond, like, getting to write their characters, just that familial dynamic is just really, it's very personal to me. So I really miss writing that, and also getting to write for all of those actors. That's not really a character, but all of those actors, because I was only there for a couple of years, but even that late into the run of the show, they were still like always so passionate, and to be able to work and write for artists and actors that are that dedicated to their craft, I miss that probably more than a particular character. But if I had to pick, I'd probably pick the boys, and I would just write scenes of them in the car. Like it doesn't even have to have a story, just them in the car driving around. That's enough for me.
Like Baby.
Yeah, like Baby. Yeah.
All right. So we're going to transition to asking you about comics.
Okay.
So you now have several experiences writing for the Star Wars canon.
I do, yeah.
What has been the most difficult part of that for you? And then also what has brought you the most joy?
Oh, wow. The most difficult part is there's certain characters that are just really intimidating. For my lizard kid brain. I think on the first book I wrote, Heather Antos, who was the editor, was like, oh, and maybe Poe Dameron is talking to General Organa at the beginning. And I was like, oh, I can't do that. I must have rewritten those a ton of times. Unfortunately, she's a really great editor and really helped me shape those scenes. And then now I'm doing a book called Target Vader and writing lines for Vader. I find that, I was talking about this earlier, I'll write the scene and then I'll just take out all of his lines and replace it with breathing. Because he doesn't talk a ton in the movies, and when he does, it's really precise. He's a hard one to write. It's very intimidating, but again, fortunately, I work with great editors, and also the Lucasfilm group. They really know his voice really well. So when I go push it a little outside of the realm of what Vader would say, they're great about reining it in and also helping shape it so that it sounds right. The joy of it is just Star Wars was the first movie I ever saw, and so it's what made me want to become a writer and get into movies and comics and all that stuff. So, honestly, the biggest joy, and it was a weird thing to see, was in the first book I did, they put the credits in the blue font, that all of them appear in, and this is a really vain thing to say, but to see my name in the blue font was really, it was really pretty rad. It was a really cool experience, And I grew up, like I said, youngest of two boys, and my brother and I have been telling Star Wars stories since we were kids. So to get to do it on that canvas with such great artists and great editors was, it's a cliche to say, but it was a dream come true. It really was.
Meet the Skrulls, so good. I love the Warner family's dysfunction and trying to fit in and dealing with human life and social media and the cruelty of teenage girls. Where did the idea for the story come from?
Well, I've always loved the Skrulls. I was a big Fantastic Four kid as a kid, and I'm always fascinated whenever there's a villain in a story that's because they're very kind of arch in the comics. They're just world domination and this planet should be ours. And I always wondered what was when they went home at night, and put away the laser guns and had to have a family dinner. I'm interested in the more mundane stuff like that, and so that was kind of, I always wanted to write something about the Skrulls, and then I just thought, what would it be like if they were really embedded? If people were shapeshifters, they would probably use it to spy on people, and it just felt like a natural fit. And then I think the show Americans was out by that point, and it felt because sometimes it's really helpful to pitch something using it's kind of like this. So I think it made it very palatable. I pitched it actually years ago, and my editors at Marvel were really supportive of it, but we couldn't quite find what the right inroad was for the story was. But fortunately, Nick Lowe and Kathleen, who were editors on the book, they found the right spot for it, and we ended up telling the story. It was a blast. It was definitely more different. Some of the stuff I've done at Marvel and elsewhere is a little bit more personal and a little darker, but it was really fun to get to play in a sort of a different corner of the Marvel universe.
Yeah, it had more smaller moments in it where you really see the characters' facial expressions.
It was fun because I was writing that and Spider-Man Deadpool, I think, around the same time. So one was a world-ending event, and then the other one was a fight at a dinner table. So to be able to have that contrast was a lot of fun.
Can I ask a sub-question? We talked a lot about you and being able to write the voice of a teenage girl so well.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Can you talk about
being able to write like a teenage girl?
Yeah.
Well, I was never a teenage girl, but I think some of it is just it's anything else. I think in writing, you just kind of put yourself into the character's headspace. I know some teenagers from family and friends, and they're trying to get the rhythm of how they talk, but I don't necessarily know what it's like to be a teenage Skrull. but I know what it's like to feel like an outsider or like I don't fit in. And it's really painful, I think, early on in your life when you feel like you don't only not fit in the real world, but not maybe fit in your own family. And so I tried to just kind of draw from that emotion. And then the rest of it was, and I also, again, I work with great editors. There's a line, it's a phrasing of a couple lines that Kathleen really, and she's like a lot younger than I am, so she's like closer to that age range, and just kind of helping massage the language so it made sure that it felt more age appropriate, because sometimes I would put in like phrases or words that weren't quite either kind of topical how kids talk now, or it just sounded like an old dude would say. But most of it was just trying to get into like that memory. I think, no matter what your teenage experience was, we've all had those moments where we felt like an outsider or different or weird. And then, hopefully you reach a point where you realize that difference and weirdness is what makes you great. And it shouldn't be run from, it should be embraced. But remembering that time before that, and that feeling of like, oh, I don't know who I am, was kind of what I was trying to access. So yeah, I'm glad it worked.
It did.
No, I said really nice.
So for Spider-Man and Deadpool, what was it like writing yourself into that? And was it your idea for you to end up, spoiler alert, being the manipulator in the end?
Yeah, so that's a funny story because we kind of had a different idea in mind for the ending of it. We always wanted to do a spoof of events. That was always like the intention of the ending run of the book. And there was a villain that I had in mind that didn't quite work, and then I was kind of stuck. And at this point, we were kind of like we were kind of far down the road with it. And Nick Lowe, who's the editor of the book, was like, "Hey, like, what if you were the villain?" And Jerry, who had done a really long, amazing run on Deadpool, had kind of had a cameo in his last issue too. And I was like, "Well, okay, like, what does that look like?" And we just started kind of talking about it. And then it was like, I would have this occasion on like other projects where I'm like, that sounds so terrible. Now I want to do it, because it's like if you could stick the landing, it might be something different and unique. And I like being able to kind of try to put myself in situations like you kind of paint yourself into a corner and see if you can get out. I don't know if we did, but it was fun to try. So it was weird writing lines for myself. But it was also really easy because I know what me would say. But then I'd have to remember like, oh, I'm a bad guy. But a lot of it actually came from, my motivation as a character was that I just wanted them to know who they really were. That's why the manipulator me says that. And then, of course, we wiped it completely from continuity at the end, which was kind of just a fun meta way to kind of wrap up the story. So yeah, it was a weird thing, but I'm really glad that Nick pitched it, and I'm glad that because he and I and Kathleen really worked to kind of figure out that end run together. And then we did what's called a Fumetti style page, which is the photo reference of everyone that was involved in it. Originally, I think Nick wanted to do the whole book Fumetti, and I was like, you're not taking my picture and putting it in a comic. But then I was like, oh, but if I end up trapped in the Marvel Universe, then I get out of that, and I don't have to do that. But everyone was great. Like, at that point, Jake Thomas was the editor on the comic, and he really helped spearhead and made that, because it's really hard to kind of wrangle everyone's schedule and make sure everyone can send their picture, and then it's got to be laid out. And it's really a credit to Jake at the end there, because he kind of helped us like land the plane and on those last couple issues, and he really helped shape that 50th issue in particular, because we had all these like crazy covers that Matt was doing of these alternate things, and he just had a lot of great ideas for like different characters to bring in. So it was fun. It was weird. I guess technically speaking, I'm in prison in the Marvel Universe. Hopefully somebody breaks me out someday, or I get killed. I don't know. Yeah,
I loved it so much. It was so hilarious.
It was
fun. It was fun and weird.
Reading it yesterday and like just laughing and rereading, and
well, I appreciate that. That's
I have like weird questions about it.
Yeah, I'm sure it's a weird story.
Sorry.
I had one more question about that.
Yeah.
Who would play you as the manipulator if it was ever in the Marvel Cinematic Universe?
Boy,
Or in
who
the
would
Deadpool
play
movie?
me in the movie? That's a great question. Alec Guinness. We'll resurrect Alec Guinness and make him American. No, I don't know. That's a tough question. There's actually a character actor. I went to Sundance years ago, and people thought I was actually him. It's the only time I've ever been mistaken for somebody. I used to have long hair, and he had long hair, and he was wearing a beanie in the movie that he was in. So his name is Kevin Corrigan. He's a character actor. He's a wonderful actor. So yeah, I guess him, because apparently we have a passing resemblance to get confused the parties with. So yeah. So Sir Alec Guinness Guinness or Kevin Bacon, whoever's available.
Sure, Alec Guinness as a Force Ghost.
Yeah, as a Force Ghost, that's fine. Yeah.
Did you send photos or like sit and
No. Matt's
he knows you well?
Yeah, Matt's a buddy, and I'm a pretty easy caricature. You put on glasses and a Tigers hat, and I'm pretty much. We couldn't put the Tigers logo in, unfortunately. But yeah, you put on a hoodie and a baseball hat and some horn rimmed glasses, and pretty much you're halfway to drawing. So, but no, we were buddies by that point, so he knew what I looked like. So no, I was like, I'm not going to do like the Titanic lady, portrait on the couch thing. I'm not going to sit. I'm not going to sit for my drawing. So yeah.
And does your office look like that?
No. I didn't send any reference. I was just like, just make it up. Just make it silly as possible. I do have I do have a lot of comics in my office and toys. So it's like it was described based on mine, but I have more like there's like licensed posters we could do. Like I have a Smokey and the Bandit, poster and a Escape from New York poster, and so like we could put that stuff in. But it's full of toys and comics. I have like a shelf behind my desk where it's for I collect Dr. Doom figures and Galactus figures. So like one is like this wall of green Dr. Doom figures, and then the other one is this wall of purple, and then a bunch of posters that we couldn't really. That's so no, it's not really my office.
Yeah.
Someday I'll have an office that nice and that clean.
Okay, so going back to Star Wars.
Yeah.
This is nerd question.
Sure. Yeah.
So I think it's what you consider your number one fandom.
Yeah,
is it?
absolutely.
What did you think of the Rise of Skywalker trailer?
Oh, I thought it was great. I can't wait. On their opening day.
Yeah, and what are you most looking forward to in the final episode of the season?
I don't know. That's a good question. I was intrigued by, there was some interview, I think J.J. Abrams talked about, like, this is the end of the Skywalker saga, and thinking about it as a 9, I know it says episode 1 through 9, but really trying to think about it as, the beginning of all, or the ending of all of those stories. And that just sort of intrigued me. I'm not sure what it means, necessarily. But that combined with the title, I was like, okay, I want to see where this goes. I want to see all the characters that I know and love. I'm really excited to see Lando. On the plane ride over, it was funny. Lando and Uhura were on my plane, and I was like, wow, Delta's flight crews are really intense. Like, those are great comms and pilot. I just assumed that they flew us here to New York. So I'm excited to see some of the characters that we haven't seen in a while and kind of catch up with them. And I mean, if I had to pick one thing, I'm very curious to see how they use the footage of Carrie Fisher, because obviously it's sad that she's no longer with us, but I think it's really great that they found a way to include her, because she's such a huge part of the story, and to not have her there would have been, I think, an inherent disappointment. So I guess if I had to pick one thing, I'm very excited to see that scene or that moment, whatever it is, and to be able to say goodbye to that character, I think is going to be a really cool thing.
We've talked about music being part of your writing process in the past.
Listening to a lot of Sturgill Simpson's record. It's really good. It's really terrific.
So what has been inspiring you lately?
The music I'm listening to the most right now is probably Sturgill Simpson. He has a new record out. I think, I can't remember, a friend of mine was phrasing it like this. It's like he always takes a really big swing and tries something completely different and sort of like out of the normal comfort zone. And I just really respect that as a performer. I think it's great that he's just stretching, but also the record is great. And then I listen to a lot of Max Richter, who does scores for movies and also does he has like a record, I think it's called like Sleep. It's like 8 hours of music. You can actually like sleep to it. I think he's going to perform it live, which would be amazing to see. But I listen to a lot of atmospheric stuff like that when I'm writing, because I can't listen to lyrics because it's just very distracting to me. But yeah, probably those two right now. And then I'm working on something that is going to be set in the 80s, and so I've been listening to a lot of like late 80s like alternative music, because that was when I sort of got into alternative music. I don't even think they call it alternative music anymore, but there's a Canadian station back home called 89X that was Windsor. They would play everything from like Susie and the Banshees to eventually like Nirvana and Pearl Jam. That's where I got a lot of my early music education, so I've been listening to some of that stuff on walks and stuff, but mostly Sturgill and Max. Those two.
How's your love of Robin?
Oh man, she's the best. I'm so bummed. She was in town for her new record, for the tour for her new record, and she's actually going to be in Detroit, I think, next week. And I was like, oh, should I just pop over? I haven't seen her new live show, but I love the new record. It's great. Again, much like Sturgill Simpson, isn't afraid to take chances and do like weird stuff, and whether it's how she shoots her videos or how she's performing live, like I just think she's an amazing recording artist. I think she's like of that sort of like sort of pop dance sort of genre. I just don't think there's anybody better for my money. But yeah, that's like at gym music, for sure, always on a pretty heavy rotation. Or for me, that's kind of like my pick-me-up music. If it's like even the songs that are sad, I don't care. They have a good beat. You can dance to them. So I think she's amazing. She's the best.
Awesome. Have you sustained your love of Destiny, and are you playing the new expansion?
I love Destiny. This is a sad story, though. My PS4 got bricked. It's under warranty, so I had to ship it off. So yeah, all my friends are like, "Oh, have you done the new expansion?" I'm like, "Not yet." So I've been switched over to the Switch, and I've been playing that Insane Goose Game, which is absurd but amazing. And then I think it's called Sayonara Wild Hearts. I've been playing some of that. And then because I'm old, I downloaded they have like a Sega Genesis one, and I've been playing a lot of this really strange sort of Tetris knockoff called Columns, which I love. It's like takes me back to being a kid playing video games. But no, I can't wait to play the new expansion. It's supposed to be great. I keep getting updates from friends like, oh, like this gun, that gun, this mission. So I'm going to be way behind, but I can't wait to dive into it. I still love it. I still play it all the time. Every time I think I'm out, they release something that I want to play, or there's some gun or some thing I haven't done. I just got in the confirmation. I got my Triumph T-shirt. I'm excited to get my Triumph T-shirt. You could have like your gamer tag actually written on the side. And I was like, okay, I'll put my gamer tag there. So yeah, I'm pretty excited about it.
All right. Do you want to?
If you could jump into the world of any show, movie, or game that you love, just jump into that universe. What would
if I could jump into the world of any game, wow, jeez.
Or movie or show.
Or movie or show. Wow, that's a great question.
Probably not Supernatural.
No, definitely not Supernatural. I wouldn't last a week in Supernatural. I'd be like dead in the. I'm like the guy who dies in the teaser. I'm like that level of success. I don't know. It's probably it limits me to my one fandom, I guess. But I would probably go into the Star Wars universe. If I could go to. There's a place. They were going to do a game of it. It's like called Level 1313 in Coruscant, and like that's where all like the scum goes. I would just want to go hang out there and like be a bounty hunter or something. I would die very quickly, but like maybe I'd get like a scene with Jabba or something like that. Like in that era, obviously when he's still alive. Maybe I'd get like a brush with Boba Fett or something like that. Probably Star Wars. I wouldn't last. I would die very quickly. But yeah, probably.
Do you have any upcoming projects you can share about?
Nothing to share just yet. I'm working. I promise. I'm not just playing Destiny all day long. But nothing to share just yet. I'm writing a movie, and I worked on a show last year for Netflix, which I'm excited about. I think it comes out next year. But yeah, nothing to share just yet. Yeah.
Anything else you want to share in general?
You guys are great. That's what I want to share. And these are good, very tough to answer questions. I hope I did well. I hope I did all right. And I'm grateful to Nerds and Beyond for 4 years in a row of interviews. This is always a pleasure. It's my favorite part of New York Comic Con. So, yeah.
Thanks, Robbie.